Remember on the 29th and 30th, there was a conversation on a military hotline, Einar Tangen, where the Chinese military commander said there should be no escalation. And it's on that night, the intervening night of the 29th and the 30th, that the Chinese tried to move into Pangong South. That's when the Indian army rushed up the mountaintops on the Kailash range, then established positions. Brahma Chalani very categorical. The Chinese have been stringing the Indians along. These talks will serve no purpose. Beijing's attitude so far has been what is mine, what is yours is mine as well. How can there be any breakthrough in such a situation, Einar Tangen?
Well, I think you want to present a point of view that I doubt Beijing would agree with. This is not a Bollywood movie. This is not high drama. You're talking about young men who will be laying down their lives if there's any kind of aggression. So this idea that somehow China is always in the wrong and India is always in the right is foolish. I mean, from Beijing's perspective, a lot of this looks like distraction politics. Is it a coincidence that on the day that China supposedly was going to attack, that was the day that India had to announce that they had a 23.9% decrease in the GDP? When India was hit the 4 million mark in terms of COVID-19, that was when, once again, the Chinese were attacking. I mean, it's I think, fairly clear to most people in the world that this is just distraction politics. It's understandable, maybe from the Indian side, but not from the Chinese.
Once again. You have to be completely cuckoo, Einar Tangen, to think that you want to mess with the Chinese and push towards war to distract from domestic problems. If there is a problem the central government's dealing with, their first focus will be on trying to deal with that, because if we go to war with the Chinese, the 23.9% fall in the GDP only gets exacerbated. It's not as if it improves. Therefore, what you're suggesting is completely absurd, Einar Tangen.
Well, you can say what you like, but the fact is that these things keep occurring at points where the government is under a tremendous amount of pressure. It's understandable. India does not have the kind of advanced medical infrastructure that even the US or Europe has. And it's unfortunate that this situation has happened. But I don't think that playing the nationalist card is going to get the situation any more calm. And, this whole program, lining up people who are saying that somehow it's always China's fault, I think is a little bit absurd. I mean, it takes two to tango. India certainly, this having a colonel go up and start kicking down Chinese tents, that was probably not too smart. I still don't know who ordered a colonel, since there were generals at the meeting and that morning, who ordered him to go do that. It's never been quite clear. So at this point, I mean, Beijing would like nothing more than to have this kind of pushed aside. They have other, priorities, including their economy. They're not interested in a bunch of goat pastures, but for nationalist reasons.
Well, if they thought of that in April and stayed where they were supposed to, Einar Tangen, we wouldn't have had the mess that we're in the first place. This Lina Ponappa is a problem created by the Chinese.
Now you're saying that it's justified.
Who now?
And you say it's justified.
And go on.
You just mentioned that India has taken strategic vantage points overlooking the Chinese. And you're saying that's all justified because of what the Chinese doing. They point to the fact that you had senior government officials on the Lok Sabha announcing that they would never rest until Asaki Chin was back in Indian control. Parts of Kashmir would have to be reunited, apart from Pakistan. You were building roads. They saw that as aggressive. The tragedy here is that both sides think that they're being reasonable, and they view the other side as being unreasonable.
Okay.
It's time for adults to come into the room, put the generals aside with their idea that somehow strategic advantage was going to settle or prevent a war, and let the adults in the room, the diplomats, come to a conclusion about how this can be settled.